Our penultimate presentation bears the title, The End of the Web as We Know It, the legislative threat that could break the internet. Please welcome Zech Wolf.
On September 2nd, 1969, excited researchers at Stanford University huddled around a small computer display as the letters L and O appeared on the screen. Several hundred miles away at UCLA, Professor Kleinrock had typed out the word login as the first message ever sent over the internet. Unfortunately, the computer at Stanford crashed, and only the first two letters of the message were received. As UCLA likes to boast, they were the first to send a message using the internet, and Stanford, well, they were the first to break it. Nearly 50 years later, the internet is ubiquitous in modern society. Yet in light of the unrivaled communicative power of the internet, it is only in accordance with human nature that ill-willed individuals take advantage of its strengths to further their illicit intentions. From the sale of drugs to C4 explosives, M60 machine guns to child prostitution, the internet is as much a symbol of human depravity as it is innovation. For behind the scenes, a flourishing criminal enterprise exploits the weak, the vulnerable, the young, for the profit of the wicked. Clearly, the internet's potential is dangerous in the hands of evil men. How do we, as a society of internet users, reconcile the platform's groundbreaking innovations with its widespread abuse? As criminal marketplaces commit countless atrocities, as the number of victims of the global trafficking trade grows, can we afford to let the internet remain free? On the other hand, can regulatory means achieve the end of this evil without shaking the foundations of a platform whose strength lies in openness and freedom of speech? Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act is crucial to understanding the regulation of the internet. In principle, this law provides freedom from liability for user-generated content to website operators. Or, in other words, websites are not responsible for, and thus cannot be sued for, content created by users. This law has been important for the development of the internet because, as one could imagine, it would be disastrous if anyone could sue companies like Facebook or YouTube for the actions of one unruly individual amongst their billions of users. Despite the relative success of this legislation over the past 20 years, some members of Congress are concerned that granting immunity in this manner allows bad actors to game the system. The controversy arose from a specific case where a classified ad site called Backpage.com was covertly encouraging criminals to engage in human trafficking using their website. Yet they were able to escape prosecution in civil court by appealing to Section 230 immunity. In order to prevent websites from abusing the privileges of Section 230, supporters of FOSTA, the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, believe that Congress should amend Section 230, weakening the liability clause to hold websites more accountable for user content. Although some would argue that Congress needs to amend this law, the best solution to this dilemma is actually to leave Section 230 as is. While the Backpage case is certainly concerning, it is important to note that the website escaped prosecution not as a result of a fundamental flaw in the legislation, but rather an interpretive error on the part of the court system. Despite some courts adhering to a loose interpretation, the original terminology of Section 230 provides a concrete standard by which to determine liability. If the website in question contributed to the development of illicit content in any manner, then they shall face full publisher liability. Rather than trying to fix a law that is not broken, Congress should issue a concurrent resolution which would reestablish the original intent of the law. As opposed to a legal amendment, a concurrent resolution has the advantage of swift congressional approval, as well as providing a clear statement of congressional intent to guide the court system in interpreting the legislation. the internet has existed for but a brief moment in the history of mankind. Yet in just 50 years, it has managed to connect an astounding 4 billion people across the planet. The power of such an invention is truly remarkable. From grandparents video calling grandchildren, to astronauts on the International Space Station broadcasting live video to YouTube, the internet has become an integral part of society. But, as it is with all good things, it is far from perfect. Inevitably, people can and will abuse its strengths for evil. However, we must ensure that in our zeal to protect its innocence, we do not stifle the freedom and flexibility that enabled the web's meteoric ascent to become the greatest invention of our era. Thank you.